Do you think we should have conversations with teenagers about family planning? Or in this case, birth control. The case of a 17-year-old girl who came to my consult with issues, and so I decided to test for pregnancy. Lo and behold, it was positive. Straight up told me, doctor, please, I need to terminate this pregnancy. What can I do? I tried to take her through complications, consequences, and even alternatives. But she looked at me and said, doctor, let me tell you, whatever it is that you tell me, just know that I'm going to terminate this pregnancy with or without your help. And this reminded me of this other 14-year-old girl who got pregnant. Of course, in the hospital setting, they told her we cannot do this, we cannot terminate. They gave her other alternatives. And she went to these traditional healers in the deep villages area because she was the girl that was in school, doing well in school, that, had other conversations from her friends. She tried out something, gets pregnant. She's too scared that her parents are simply going to kill her. So she decides to take matters into her own hands. So she went to the traditional healers. She mentioned how they put in like hooks down there and they put in like herbs. And by the time she came, she was oozing of pus in her vaginal area. She was too sick. She was at the verge of death. So the medical team decided to remove her uterus. They did a hysterectomy, got out the uterus, and because the entire place was septic, like it was bad. The thing that I remember that wounds me to this day, I remember seeing her friends in the window and her sisters in the window, and they asked, hey doctor, is she going to ever have her menses again? And this is when I realized that this is such a heavy consequence for a mind this young, for a child. Guys, this is a child and you're removing her uterus. What? Anyway, so this reminded me that we need to have a middle ground. We need to understand today's reality. And this is upcountry. Children in urban areas are exposed to much more information every day. Every day. I had a poll on Instagram about this conversation, and this is how it went. But the one that stood out for me the most was a teacher saying that she has seen children in primary 7, S1, S2 that are having the implant. What? The implant? What? I think it's important for us to address these things on all levels. First of all, parents, you need to educate your children. This business of saying that you are shy, trust me, the world is not shy and it is very ready to unshyfully teach your child a lot of rubbish. I believe that health workers, we have a role to give accurate information as often as possible. But above all, we need a lot of support on national levels. So the policymakers, we need support from the national levels. For example, the National Framework for Education on Health and Life Skills. We need policies that are able to actually help protect the current realities. This is what I think could work. You tell me if it works for you, or if it doesn't, that's okay. I believe that number one, it's important to tell your child about the value system at home. It's important, for example, if you're a household that believes in waiting until marriage, it's important that this is told to them and why. Not just do this, or else you're going to be shamed. Not like that. I think it's important to approach it from an angle of saying that, first of all, sex is not just physical, it is social, it is emotional, it is spiritual. It has consequences on very many different spectrums. Also, it is important not to give them half-ass information, because this just makes it incomplete and they're going to fill in those other gaps. So I believe talking about things like contraceptives and not telling them that this is what you should use, it's telling them this is the information that is actually accurate. If you're not able to share with them accurate information, by all means go to a gyne consult and talk about these things. For example, I believe it's important to tell them the difference between the methods that are available. There are hormonal methods and the non-hormonal methods. For example, the hormonal methods are definitely not advised in teenagers, because the teenagers already have their own hormonal imbalances. That's why, for example, they have irregular periods, mood instabilities. And so to let them know that if ever influenced, these hormonal methods come with so many other issues that would instead cause them harm. And I think also another interesting thing, which most even adults don't know, is things like the non-hormonal methods, like the copper IUD. For example, you find that if you're in a promiscuous relationship, which you don't know, which of course you'd expect that if teenagers are having intercourse, then they're going to be promiscuous. Things like the IUDs, if you have it in there and you're in a promiscuous situation, so it may not be you, it may be your partner who is. If an infection or an STI finds an IUD there, it's going to become problematic. And that's how they get things like PID, and this can eventually result into infertility. You've heard of things like blocked tubes? Yes, because when there's inflammation in there, the tubes heal, and along the way they may heal by blocking or by scarring, and so this eventually results into infertility, and no one wants that. What am I saying? You being taught how to use your seatbelt is not a leeway for you to drive recklessly. It is protection so that you avoid damage if an accident happens, or if anything, the damage is lessened. Do not forget, this is information that is already out there. It's just best that they get it from someone who is giving it to them for their purpose, or giving it to them for the better use, not to destroy them. Otherwise, that is it for today. Class dismissed. Let me know what it is that you think in the comments.